welcome. My name is Pam, and this is my podcast, Stitches and Prayers, my little corner of the internet where I talk about my crocheting and my knitting, what I finished, what I'm working on, what I want to be working on. And so let's grab your crafty project, your favorite beverage, sit back and see what I've been up to over the last couple of weeks. You can follow me on Instagram at Stitches and Prayers. Like and subscribe to the podcast to help get it out there for everybody, help that algorithm out. I would greatly appreciate it. Comment below if you see something you like or you have suggestions. And let's get started. All right, everybody. So this week in finished objects, I really only have one, and that would be my simple slouchy sweater. You guys remember last week I was in the middle of lengthening my simple slouchy, and last week I had stopped on this I had stopped on this blue, and I was going to join it together there. But I did take and I added this, it's a dark gray, almost like a charcoal. I only added like another inch. When I held it up, I didn't think that it was going to be good enough. For those who did not watch last week's, shame, shame, shame on you. I'm kidding. But this is a sweater that I started in December 2018. I finished it in March of 2019. It is a pattern by Yay for Yarn, and Yay is Y-A-H for Yarn. It's a free pattern that you can look up and find it. You can either find it on Ravelry and it'll direct you to her webpage, or you can just type in simple, your Google search. You can type in simple slouchy sweater and it'll come up and it'll take you directly to her webpage where it is, like I said, free. It has got here for the collar, it's just a 2x2 ribbing. So it's knit. You start at the bottom and you knit up. And it's knit all in one piece, the whole body. I can't remember. I think the sleeves were knit separate and then they're sewn on. This probably was my first ever cardigan that I made after I started knitting. I'm sorry if there's a little scratchiness on my mic. Move it down just a little bit so it doesn't interfere. There we go. And like I said, I finished it during the beginnings of the worldwide pandemic in March of 2019. So, but then I didn't wear it a lot. It was too short. So it was this brown stripe here was up here at this orange stripe. So I added a good, I don't know what it is, 6 inches there where I did this mint green and the royal blue and this gray brown and the brown. So this brown I added, I should have had this on there. I can't remember what I had on there last time, but it wasn't done. I think I added this brown on after the podcast was done. So I went from this from this brown down here to the orange. So I added a good amount and it didn't have pockets. So what I did, and I showed you in the last episode, was I went into the very first orange stripe and I went into the second row of the brown stripe and I picked up all of the stitches. And then just like in steeking, where steeking is where you cut your knits, I cut the yarn and I unwound it. And so my sweater was in 2 pieces. And then I added in the length, I added in the afterthought pockets. I didn't show you. I put a nice bright hot pink in there for my pockets. I really wish that I would have made them just a little bit longer. When I put my phone in there, it doesn't sit as well as I would like, and my phone has fallen out a couple of times, so I just have to be careful. Make sure that my phone doesn't fall out. But other than that, when I knit it, I did not knit it in, and I'm looking at my notes. I knit it in a 5mm needle, which, if I'm remembering correctly, is the preferred needle size for the sweater in the pattern. I knit the 5th size, which is the extra large. If I were to knit it again, I don't know if I would, I think I would go up a size, because the front, it really falls, because there's nothing holding it closed, but it really falls to the side a lot to where I keep hitting that mic. I'm sorry if I'm messing with you guys. Um, so I might actually go up to the 2X size, just so that I don't have to pull it to wrap it around me. It's just naturally right there. Who knows? Who knows what I'm going to do? But I'm finally loving it. I wear it like every day. And it's a nice little spring jacket to throw on. And I love it. And I love it. The only thing that I'm not happy about is I used the Kitchener stitch to graft the 2 pieces together right here at the orange. I used the brown to do so. And you can, I don't know if you guys can see it. I can definitely feel it. But where it came together, I couldn't figure out, and if you're a knitter, please help me, how to Kitchener stitch the pearls. So I just did the regular Kitchener, the knit stitch Kitchener, but I don't know if there is a pearl knit stitch or pearl stitch Kitchener to where I could have made it to where it looked flawless. But I'm still happy. I'm still wearing it. I don't think anybody but me would know. So there's that. It is made out of all Red Heart yarn. So just acrylic yarn. They were scraps that I had. And I mean, you can see I did a terrible job sewing it together. You can see my seams. It's just, but I wear it and I love it. You can see the seams on this side too. Not as much. Must have done a better job on this side because you can't see them on this side. You can see where I sewed the seam here. So, I mean, if I were to do it again, I would probably make some modifications where I picked up my sleeves. Instead of knitting them separate and sewing them on, I would just pick up sleeves and knit down. But you live and you learn, and it was my first project, so I'm just ecstatic about it. I'm very happy. All right, if you all have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and I'll answer them.
All right, everybody. So I recorded this once and it wouldn't let me upload it. So here we go again. So the second finished object that I have this week would be a Project Marvin blanket. So this is the side that I already had done last week. Back a little bit. There we go. So this is what I had done last week. And I got the other half done. In the first part, I took the words. I had a stitch marker there, progress keeper. I had a progress keeper on this pink part, and it's pretty much like half that I had done. So I got the second half of it done here. What I did was, I chained between 110, 120, and then half double crocheted all the way till it was done. It's all in Red Heart yarns. I think actually this variegated right here, I think that's a Hobby Lobby yarn, but it's still all acrylic. But Yep, there we go. That one is done. It's got a border. All the ends are woven in. It's all done in half double crochet with a 5mm hook. And it even has the little tag on it that says, "Made in loving memory of Marvin Pace, forever in our hearts." All of you longtime watchers know that I have a thing going on that is called Project Marvin. Marvin was my grandfather. He died a year ago this past February. And ever since then, I've been making lap blankets for my grandmother to deliver to nursing home. The idea was that it was going to be to the nursing home that he was in, but sorry, I don't know if that messed anything up. They already have somebody that brings in blankets for them, so I think she's donated the ones that I've made already to a cancer center. So as long as it's helping people, doesn't matter to me. They're made in the memory of my beloved grandfather. Loved him very much. So, but with that being said, because I got rid of one, I started one. So, and this is also in, it's going to be all in acrylics. This one, I think, is that Hobby Lobby yarn. And I want to say it was 115 stitches. Just kind of chain and hold it up to my lap, and when it folds around really good, that's when I stop. And I want to say it's around 115. Somewhere around there. That's all I've got done on this one so far. So I'll be working on that in the next 2 weeks, getting that done. I've got my little, I call them magic balls, where there's just all kinds of different yarn in there. Whenever I've got a ball of yarn that really isn't going to be good for a full project, I will throw it in there for the use in the Project Marvin blankets. So that's about all there is to say about that. Both of them were made with 5mm hooks and half double crochet. I like the half double crochet just because, like, this one back here, I made this for him when I was, I don't know, 15 or so. But it's double crochet, and like you can see the holes. Like, I'm going to tell you a secret. Behind here is a bunch of shelves with all of my Bath and Body Works, and you can like see them shine through. That's the only reason why I put that up there. But yeah, so I like the half double crochet. It makes it a little bit tighter of a weave, I guess you would call it. I don't know what you would call it. If you know what you would call it, comment below. But that is that. So that's it for Project Marvin. All right. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is, I'm reaching for my notes, is my DRK sweater, the Everyday Sweater, Stripes Edition. So I made a comment, I know it was in the last one, but it might have even been before that one, that I watched the Andrea Mowry podcast, and she had on a sweater that was one of her designs, and it was a striped sweater, and she has a pattern for it in the stripes. I already own the DRK Everyday Sweater. So I said, why can't I just use the Everyday Sweater and make it a striped sweater? I don't see why not. So this is the 4th time that I've cast it on the needles, and I think I've got a winner. So what I did was, because of the stitch count that she had you cast on, I think it's supposed to be in like a fingering weight yarn, which I'm using worsted, so that's a big difference. So when I would cast on the amount of stitches that she calls you to cast on for the size I'm making, which is the size 5, the neck was way out here. Like, I mean, you see where my shoulders are at, and it was way out here. And I just didn't like it. So then I tried only doing the, just do the cast on and go straight into the sweater, and I would go back and do the ribbing later. And it was still pretty wide. I didn't like it either. So that all came out. That's what I showed you the last time. This time I took, and this is what I've got so far. And that's the side. So there's the front. That's what I have so far. What I did was I followed the cast on for the size I wanted in the Flax by Tin Can Knits. I followed that one in the extra large size. So I cast on 90 stitches, and I did the 1x1 ribbing for 1.5 to 2 inches. It was like 9 or 10 rows. And then I went back to the DRK Everyday Sweater. I did the short rows as she has in the pattern. And as soon as I was done with the short rows, I did an increase row that she calls for. And then there's a solid section of no increases. Within that section, I also added in 2 more increase sections to get me up to the stitch count that I had to have that I was supposed to be doing that whole section in. I hope all of that made sense. But that's where I'm at. And that is what it looks like so far. And it's on my needles. They're too short. It's all bunched up. You really can't tell. But it's all worsted weight yarn. And that's what I got. So right now I'm working on, like, I'm using this brown, and it's got like speckles in it. And then I've got everything else. I've got like this chocolate color that will also go into it. And then everything else is like living in my 31 bag here. I know that one is like Aryan Flack right here at the top. And this one is like medium thyme. This one is like sage. Can't remember. I can't remember. I think that's rose. And I don't know. I don't have ball bands for any of it. I might even be making up names to go along with it. So that is what I'm working on. That's all that I've been working on. I still have the Diggory tea. The Diggory tea is in timeout. And I don't know. It'll probably come back out, but I just haven't. That's not what I've been wanting to work on. I haven't picked it up in the 2 weeks since we've podcast last. So, but anyways, I had just come in from watching the Northern Lights outside. So I'm going to post some pictures at the end that one my husband took and some other people that I know took. They will all get photo credit. So enjoy if you didn't get to see them.
All right, everybody. So our hymn today is, again, coming out of my Then Sings My Soul book, which is got 300 of the hymns in it. And today we're going to go over When the Roll is Called Up Yonder, which was one of my favorites. Go ahead and put on the old glasses. So When the Roll is Called Up Yonder, written in 1893. The Bible verse that goes with it is, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live. John 11:25. This old favorite was inspired by disappointment. James Black was calling roll one day for a youth meeting at his Methodist church in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. One name didn't answer, young Bessie, the daughter of an alcoholic. Crestfallen at her absence, James commented, "Oh God, When my own name is called up yonder, may I be there to respond. Returning home, a thought struck him while opening the gate. Entering the house, he went to the piano and wrote the words and music effortlessly. Years later, this song comforted a group of traumatized children in a Japanese concentration camp. In his book, A Boy's War, David Mitchell tells of being in boarding school in Chifu, China, during a Japanese invasion. On November 5th, 1942, the students and faculty were marched from their campus and eventually ended up in a Wysian concentration camp. Among the students was Brian Thompson, a lanky teenager. One evening, about a year before the war ended, Brian was restless, waiting for the evening roll call, which was long overdue. A bare wire from the searchlight tower was sagging low, and some of the older boys were jumping up and touching it with their fingers. "Whew, I got a shock off of that," one said. Brian decided to try. Being taller than the others, his hand was drawn into the wire, and it came down with him. When his bare feet hit the damp ground, the electricity shot through him like bolts of lightning. His mother, who had been charged with the students, tried to reach him, but the others held her back, or she too would have been electrocuted. Finally, someone found an old wooden stool and managed to detach the electrical wire, but it was too late. At roll call that night, when the name Brian Thompson was called, there was no answer. David Mitchell later wrote, "Our principal and Mr. Houghton led a very solemn yet triumphant funeral service the next day. The shortness of life and the reality of eternity were brought home to us with force, as Paul Bruce related that Brian had missed the roll call in camp, but he answered one in heaven. How important it is for us to sing and know when the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there." So the words, the verses, there's really no chorus, so it's just all verses, but it says, "When the trumpet of the Lord shall sound, and time shall be no more, and the morning breaks eternal, bright and fair, when the saints of earth shall gather over on the other shore, and when the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. On that bright and cloudless morning, when the dead in Christ shall rise, and the glory of his righteous resurrection share, when the chosen ones shall gather to their home beyond the skies, and when the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. Let us labor for the Master from the dawn till setting sun. Let us talk of all his wondrous love and care. And when all of life is over and our work on earth is done, and the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there." I hope that on that inevitable day for every one of us, that when the roll is called up yonder, you'll be there. Father, thank you for the day that you've given us. Thank you for the time that you've given us to come together, talk about you, and that we really, I hope that everybody that's listening has that assurance in their heart that when the roll is called up yonder, that they'll be there. Thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you for your son. Thank you for everything. In your precious name we pray. Amen. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in till the very end. And don't forget, this world is not our home. We're just a passing through. I'll see you guys next time.